Everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the City of Tumwater's Public Works Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, February 19th, 2026. Myself is here. I see that Councilmember Swartout is here. Is Councilmember Sullivan here?
I'm here. Hello.
Oh, okay, good. So we're all here. Are there any changes to the agenda? I believe there is. And I'm tracking that to remove Councilmember Swarthout was elected to serve as chair of the Tumwater General Government Committee during 2026-2027. Am I tracking?
I believe that's been corrected already.
Okay, so it's been corrected already. All right, so let's move on to approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And sorry about that. I'm just speeding through here. Motion passes unanimously. So let's discuss service provider agreement with Gray and Osborne for the Well 15 aeration and design project.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. Let me just start presenting here.
Good morning, Carrie.
Yes. Let's see. Hold on. Of course, Zoom's different than Teams, so I'm always searching for things. Let's see if we get the right one. Okay. So are you seeing the full or are you seeing the presenters?
We see the full.
Okay. So yes, good morning again. My name is Carrie Gillum. I'm the Senior Water Resources Specialist with City of Tumwater. And I'm here to give some information and explain a little bit about the service provider agreement that we are going to have with Gray and Osborne. This is for the Well 15 Improvement Project, which is going to include a few different pieces to it. So to give you a little bit of information, Well 15 is one of 12 of our wells within our water system. It is located northeast of Tumwater Boulevard in New Market. It's just kind of east of New Market School. The property itself is owned by the Port of Olympia, but we have a perpetual easement with them, which outlined here is the yellow dashed line. So of course, when we start working on this project, we are going to be opening up discussions with them about, all the changes we're going to be making. It is our second largest single producing well in the water system. The other one is Well 14, which is in the Bush area, the Bush Middle School area. And it is one of 4 wells as part of our Port well field that does not have any treatment beyond chlorine. It also does not have any auxiliary power, which our Palermo well field and our Bush well field has both aeration treatment and backup power for emergencies. So a little bit about the rule that's kind of guiding some of the work that needs to be done on this site. In 1991, EPA had the lead and copper rule that was passed. It was established by the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. And it is to reduce the exposure of lead and copper in drinking water to any customers that receive it. It set action levels for both those constituents. And if more than 10% of those samples were high, than that action level, then systems would be required to make changes in order to reduce that. So it's just more than anything that our water can potentially leach out from the pipes that it's delivered in, both on the distribution side, but also it can be in the homes. And so sometimes the quality or parameters that DPA is looking for doesn't quite fit the criteria, and therefore they require something called a corrosion control treatment, corrosion being the removal of metals from the pipes into the water. In order to make sure that we are fulfilling those requirements and not exceeding action levels, we do regular monitoring at the customer's tap. So that accounts for both the distribution side and the customer side of the pipes. So updates to the rule have occurred in 2021 and 2024. The most significant being the reduction in the lead action level. It actually went from 15 ppb to 10 ppb. And all of the enforcement that comes from this has actually been given to the state. So we work with the Washington Department of Health to make sure that we are in compliance. So a little bit of what our historical compliance with the lead and copper rule has been. In 1994, we did do a corrosion control study, but it didn't really focus on the drinking water and the chemistry of the water and how corrosion of the pipes could occur. It was more about soil pipe interface. This was adequate at that time and fulfilled the requirements for the 1991 start of the EPA rule. And then we have also continued with lead and copper testing on a regular basis since 1992. And as I'm showing in these graphs, you can see we have the red line, which is our action level. New action level has been introduced in 2025 for both lead and copper, but lead was the only one that was reduced. And you can see we've been in compliance since the start of the rule, as we've seen with all of our testing. And what has happened, though, is that one of the things is in 2019, we were notified by Washington Department of Health that we are now considered a large water system, which is over 50,000 people served. That includes both people who are residents, but also people who visit our community. And because of that, we will be required to have proof of an optimized corrosion control in our system. This needed to be done through a study. And so we hired HDR in 2021 to complete the study. This required us to do a lot of water quality sampling, as well as they looked at past stuff that we had done, sampling on and research too.
Carrie, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So is this well, number 15, the only well that we're doing this for? Or, is this a line of we've done it to the other wells?
So for this one, we are only needing to do well 15. However, the other wells in the Port Wellfield, which I believe I kind of talked to in the next few slides, is also going to need some type of treatment according to DOH. But we are also trying to determine what we want to do with those wells, how we're going to go about either, continue using them or putting in new wells or potentially, connection or separate treatment systems for them. But for now, because this is the biggest well that we use or the largest volume well we used, DOH wants us to proceed with this one.
Okay, so this is the start. Thank you.
Yeah. So yes, in 2024, HDR did complete the study and they basically determined that the port wells were not going to be in compliance. It's mostly to do with the pH of the water. pH is something that, is like the acidity and stuff can really corrode onto pipes or corrode metals off of pipes and into water. And so that was the biggest thing that kind of made the determination that corrosion control treatment was going to be necessary for these port wells. And of the 4, only 3 of them need to be done. Luckily, well 11 is got a pH that's at the level that they're looking for. So like I said, we are going to be starting with well 15 and then determining, what to do with 9 and 10 afterwards. So the study was completed, HDR made recommendations, and then DOH needed to review and then accept those recommendations. And they ended up accepting it and stating that we had to have design and construction of aeration treatment by July 29th of 2026, so this summer. So I've got a picture here of well 15 and its well house. So in 2020, October 2025, we requested qualifications to complete the design and treatment for or just the design for the treatment as well as well upgrades. If we're going to go ahead and have to put in this new treatment, there's going to be additional infrastructure that's going to be needed and a building and stuff like that. This will also help us bring this building up to what our expectations and code is for our infrastructure. So the facility design is been selected to be done by Gray and Osborne, which is the reason for the agreement that we've got here in front of us. And it is going to include the aeration treatment design, but also we are looking to replace the old structure to make it more earthquake resilient, as well as just kind of safe in general. This is a wooden structure, and a lot of ours are put into like a block structure. So that would help with security as well. We're going to be doing some IT upgrades to SCADA communication and cybersecurity. The idea was to be able to have more remote access in case of emergencies with the well sites, also being able to monitor if there's any intrusions that are going to occur and kind of give additional training for, security measures when it comes to having this availability, perhaps, offline for others to be able to access. So that's going to be, something that we're looking at and trying to include in this as well. And then auxiliary power for this site. Our Bush and Palermo well fields have backup power that can last several days to keep the well field running if we have a power outage, but this one does not. And with it being the second biggest one, we want to ensure that we have that resiliency in the event that there is a power outage for any reason, whether it be storms or earthquake or whatever. So the funding for this will be coming from our drinking water fund, and it's not to exceed the $368,000, and this is for the design. So my recommendation is to place the service provider agreement with Gray and Osborne for the Well 15 aeration design project on the March 3rd, 2026 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
Fellow council members, any questions for Carrie? Thank you, Carrie.
Sure.
No questions from me.
I do have a few.
Sure.
So again, remind us then after the design part, when do we foresee it going into construction?
It looks like design is going to take about 12 to 18 months. And so
Okay.
we're hoping that construction will follow immediately afterwards.
Okay.
I will be in touch with DOH about any extensions that are needed, and they also understand that that may be necessary and didn't see an issue at the time.
Okay, because I was thinking that too, because there was a
Yeah.
deadline there, so we'll probably be seeing this again. Okay, and then the whole thing, like the copper and lead part was like, when that is kind of a triggering thing. So it's really a pH thing. It's not that we have an issue with the quality of our water because we're constantly testing it. So is that
Correct?
Want to reconfirm?
Yeah, we have had no issues with lead and copper as a system whole.
Mhm.
There have been some sites that, like some homes that maybe test high, and what we've determined is it's usually they have fittings and stuff that have pre-ban in their homes still that have
Mhm.
like maybe a higher lead. Copper we have not exceeded, so
Mhm.
we've been safe there. And then we have worked with those individuals to inform them of what they need to do. So right now we are responsible, and we also just finished an inventory to determine if we had any lead service lines in our system, and we had none. So
Okay.
it's the assumption that with all that's going on, that we would not be producing lead out of our system.
Okay.
DOH still wants us to do the corrosion control though, because we also want to make sure we're not leaching from homes within the private section of the homes.
Yeah, because I think about some of the older homes that are up on Tumwater Hill that may not know. And I know we had one constituent that had an issue with something. I remember writing in about that. So, but yeah, how do you know until something?
Yeah, and
something
we're
goes
always
Yeah.
We're always seeking volunteers to be able to participate. Every 3 years, we're required to get at least 30 people, and it's actually
Mhm.
pretty hard.
Mhm.
So I would like it if more people did, so that we can give them the proper information so they can protect themselves.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. All right.
I have a follow-up question about what you just said, Carrie.
Sure.
Every 3 years, when is that you will be seeking volunteers again?
So we just did it last year, so it'll be in 28.
Awesome. Thanks.
And what's the year date? Are you looking at typically? Who qualifies? What year?
So typically it's 83 to 87 is our primary tier that we're looking for. However, I accept pretty much across the board, if people are curious, especially. But that is, usually looking at that. And then like our second one is kind of looking at the homes older than that. We just know that like 86 was the ban. And so there should be no additional lead being used in drinking water fixtures and lines since 86 or 87. But what was being used previous to that 83 to 87 may also include those materials. So, I really do try to focus on anything kind of pre-87, but I am also willing to do or have people participate. If we have the space, especially, then I'm willing to take other dates.
Yeah, just to add to that, council member, is we've done a good job, I want to say probably over the last, since the rule came out of really trying to reach out to homes, and we've had a good fluctuation of participants from upwards of 80, 90 participants down to just barely squeaking by the minimum required of 30. And so Carrie does a good job of making sure that we reach out to any home that qualifies, using an analysis of our system to determine who would and could participate. So from a residential standpoint, we reach every home that kind of fits the parameters of the program. And we say, do you want to participate? And luckily we've been able to, get the minimums that we want every year. Like Carrie said, we're really encouraging other folks to participate if they fall within those timeframes. And then also prior to the state law changing, where like schools and daycares are required to do this testing as well, and then submit the results to the state. We also reached out to daycares and select businesses and schools to let them participate voluntarily with our program. We no longer do that since they have to do their own testing regardless, but we are open to coordination and with those folks as well too. So.
Well, you think at some point with your diligence that you're going to be all caught up. I mean, you think about it, if you've reached out, how many homes that could be that you continue chipping away at some point that you would pretty much reached out to all of them. So
yeah, and I think regardless of whether or not folks participate, the point of the optimization study and the work that we've been doing the last couple of years is really it's recognizing that the conditions exist within the system that could leach metals out of residential pipes or post city pipes, because as Carrie noted, we don't have any lead service lines within our pipes. We don't have the materials that we're not going to be leaching these materials from the city system into a home, but whatever from a home or a business, they might have these materials that exist. And so we're trying to reduce the conditions that could create that within an internal household or resident. So basically, that's the point of the optimization. We're reducing those conditions so that way, even if a home participates or doesn't participate, those conditions are being reduced so that the potential for the leaching is not going to happen in the future.
Excellent. Okay. With that said, we have a motion to place a service provider agreement with Gray and Osborne for the Well 15 aeration design project on the March 3rd, 2026 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is the final acceptance of work with A&D Enterprises for the Anson Sewer Project.
All right, morning, council. I guess afternoon now. Not used to be in the afternoon. So afternoon, council members. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Perfect. Okay, go ahead and get started. So I'm Colby Fletcher. I'm the city construction manager, one that deals with all the capital construction contracts. And yeah, again, we're meeting here today. I was here to present the final acceptance of work with A&D Enterprises for the Anson Sewer project. So go ahead and get started. Give you a brief project overview real quick. So project obviously fits in with the City of Tumwater's vision, mission, beliefs, strengthening our commitment to City of Tumwater's strategic priority goals, more specifically being a leader in environmental sustainability by increasing the capacity of the public sewer system. This project for a scope of work included the upgrade of the Anson Street sewer force main, ensuring the capacity for a growing population. And then it also included the decommissioning of a lift station at Lake Park that was kind of a non-serviceable lift station. So with that, I will share this vicinity map so everybody kind of gets a better idea of where we're at. So the primary efforts were along Anson Street, which is off of Sap Road. And then you can kind of see down here below on the bottom right corner, the dashed area where we did the Lake Park lift station decommissioning as well. So yeah, and I guess we'll go in and get to what we accomplished. So the improvements included the installation of 1,425 feet of 6-inch force main on Anson Street. So what this provided us was basically separating two lift stations that were once being served by a single force main. So we had the Streamland lift station and the Suncrest lift stations. This basically separated them, so they actually operate on two separate independent force mains now. They in the force main application, they combine at the north end of the project into an existing manhole and have gravity sewer system going to lot ultimately. And then we also decommissioned the old lift station at Lake Park Drive and Linwood Avenue. The benefits with that, obviously, improved force main performance, safe and more efficient sewer system, and also increased the sewer pumping capacity of Streamland and Suncrest lift stations. And then the pump station decommissioning, as I mentioned, was an old, kind of abandoned, if you will, but still operational lift station. It allowed us to remove the unused pump station hardware, increase safety because it was kind of a roadside hazard. And then also we were able to remove an active PSE power meter and control panel. So I guess showcasing some photos of the sewer force main installations here on Anson Street. Here's the one picture on the left is some of the trench excavation. There was a plethora of existing underground utilities we had to navigate. That seems pretty common here in the city of Tumwater. So we had everything located and they were able to plan for that. So, and then over to the right is the actual installation of the new 6-inch force main. So on Anson Street itself. Kind of get into the construction summary for this project. So we started this project on May 28th, 2025. We achieved substantial completion on June 19th and physical completion on June 23rd. The funding for this project came from sewer CFPs, and the engineering cost estimate was $376,000. Bids came in much lower than that, which we were really happy to see. The actual low bid was awarded to A&D Enterprises was $321,000, and the final contract total was $305,000 after all construction was complete. So overall, this project was a huge success. Sewer systems operating way more efficient now. There was strain on the lift stations kind of competing with the shared force main. And, we did a lot of outreach with this project too to the HOA. We had them involved heavily through the pre-con and getting all the communications outreach and stuff. So everybody was well aware of the project, of what it was coming. There was some on-street parking limitations we had to coordinate, but there wasn't any issues with that. Everybody was pretty accommodating. I think they appreciated all the outreach we did in advance of. And then, there's kind of a force main trench restoration picture right there. Kind of shows what it looked like after the force main was done. This project, so that's not what the road looks like currently. There will be a forthcoming presentation for final acceptance here soon for our 2025 pavement maintenance. So this work was done in advance of that pavement maintenance project where we ended up going through and reconstructing the whole roadway. So it's a brand new finished asphalt mat now. So yeah, I guess with that, let's get to the recommended action of place the final acceptance of work with A&D Enterprises for the Anson Sewer Project on the March 3rd, 2026 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation for the mayor to accept the project as complete and authorize the release of the performance bond as soon as the laws of the state of Washington will allow. You can kind of see some other photos up there as well. So I guess with that, I'll kind of open it up to any questions.
Okay. Colby.
Yes.
So I have a question, and it's a process because I don't understand the process. So we're going to release the performance bond because they posted the bond before they started the work. Work is complete. So talk me through that. Explain that to me.
Yes, so as part of all of the construction administration aspects and stuff, there's two options for contractors to onboard with the city. That is either to bond or do retainage. On this project, it was a bonding, and that's all the releases and stuff. So in order to get bond releases, and when it says the state of Washington will allow, so there's three agencies that we have to get clearances from once a project is ready for closeout. So that being Department of Revenue, I think it's Employment Security Department. I forget the third one as well off the top of my head. If Dina were here, she'd be able to help me answer that. But there's three clearances that we have to get, and once we achieve all those clearances from those state agencies, then we can go through and release all the bonding and retainage stuff. So,
Okay, thank you, Kobe.
Yep.
Any other questions for Kobe, council members?
No, I appreciate you answering that we already repaved that part. So that was going to be my question, but we already took care of that. So thank you, Colby.
Yep. Yeah, this project, it was we weren't sure when we were going to get the bids out and stuff. We had some language in the 25 pavement maintenance to wait until this project was done to pave it because we didn't want the conflict of stepping in work zones and making sure this was restored and operational prior to. So, yep.
We only try to dig once and repave once. So
exactly.
Good job.
No questions. Just appreciate your work. I really appreciate the pictures and maps in your presentation. And it was nice to hear about the communication and neighbors being happy to have that proactive communication to understand where to park and how to be out of the way and how to make it minimally invasive for them as y'all repaved and patched the holes.
Okay. With that said, can one of my fellow council members bring a motion?
I move that we place the final acceptance of work with A&D Enterprises for the Anson Sewer Project on the March 3 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation for the mayor to accept the project as complete and authorize the release of the performance bond as soon as the state of Washington laws allow.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is the final acceptance of work with Miles Resources for the Israel Road pedestrian and bike project.
That would be me again for this one. So,
okay, Kobe, will you be for the next one also?
No, I will not. So
okay.
Just two for me today. You will see me forthcoming on some additional public works committees here in the immediate future, though, for some additional final acceptance of works. But I limited it to two for myself today. So
okay, thanks.
So yeah, as you mentioned, here to present on the final acceptance of work with Miles Resources for the Israel Road Pedestrian and Bicycle Improvements Project. So kind of go over the brief project of overview again with this one. So this one fitting with our Tumwater vision, beliefs, mission, strengthening the commitment to strategic priorities and goals. And this one specifically was creating and maintaining a transportation system safe for all modes of travel. Scope of work on this project was pretty heavy-handed. We did a lot of ADA sidewalk improvements, some pedestrian crossing improvements, curb ramps, driveway upgrades. We did roadway repair and repaving and some stormwater drainage improvements. So get to the vicinity map so you all can see kind of where that's at. Obviously, it was right here in front of City Hall. This project was a part of, I guess, basically the after treatment of our Israel Road water main project, which we did in, I think it was 2023. So this was kind of the restoration of the roadway and stuff for that. So as you can see, everything in magenta is kind of all the sidewalk improvements. Everything in gray is the limits of our paving, restriping, and that. So I guess with this project, kind of throwing up the numbers here for what we accomplished, pedestrian and bicycle safety improvements. We had 3,500 lineal feet of reconstructed sidewalks. So we had some substandard sidewalk widths and, increasing those to ADA compliant widths. We had 30 reconstructed curb ramps. So a lot of those don't have domes and they didn't meet ADA compliance grades. So reconstructing those to meet ADA. We had 16 improved pedestrian crossings, so that includes like the longitudinal crossings, like the crossing in front of the high school. All those crossings got reconfigured, and we also added the crossing across Israel Road Well, we didn't add it. It was an existing crossing, but we enhanced it by installing an RRFB, the pedestrian signal there in front of Newmarket Street. So that was previously a flagged condition, and this one actually has the press button and kind of alerting motorists of pedestrian traffic. So, and then we also improved bicycle facilities on this. So the pre-existing condition of the roadway didn't have standard lane width. So this went through, we did an ultimate road diet on this one where we provided 6-foot bike lanes, and we shrunk the lanes to 10 feet for traffic calming, and the two-way left turn lane was reduced a little bit too, so we can get those widths on the bike lanes. Ultimate roadway improvements. We did 29,000 square feet of roadway repaving, so I'm sure everybody was aware driving Israel Road when we had it kind of stripped down and planed, so it was a little bit of a challenge for that, but we were able to get it repaved the same week. We did 3,370 lineal feet of new curb. There was some spot repairs to storm drainage conveyance, so we did those, and then ultimately the pavement markings and some permanent siding were installed as well. So here's kind of go through and show you some photos real quick. So obviously at the left there is kind of some curb and gutter construction. So with that, they're using a slip form machine. It's more of a streamlined and efficient operation instead of hand forming a lot of stuff when they're doing a lot of lengthy straight lines of curb and gutter construction. And then on the right side, yeah.
Colby, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So when Miles Resources is doing that work, right? Is there someone from our organization who goes out there to inspect it every day? Are they out there with them? Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we do have inspectors, city inspection staff, and they're out there on site monitoring compliance. So this one had a federal aid project as well, or federal aid funding, and I'll get to that here in a second. But there's a lot of contract administration documents that we need to be documenting throughout the process. DBE performance, because we had some DBE subcontractors on this project. They're actually going through confirming our plans because we put together a plan set and spec package, and the inspector's job is to verify that they're conforming to those requirements. There's certain ways that construction's supposed to occur. There is the standard specifications for WashDOT, which we adopt as well, which is, I call it the roadway construction Bible. It's a thick book. It's got all aspects of roadway construction in it, and there's requirements that they're supposed to be verifying as well. And we also hire independent materials testing consultants, so making sure like concrete and asphalt is compliant with the contract requirements. There's gradation, concrete, air, all this other stuff. There's a lot of components. So to answer your question, yes, we do have somebody on site at all times, verifying traffic control, verifying the contractor's work operations, and then we're documenting that as well. So.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Colby.
Yep, absolutely. So, and then, yeah, the photo on the right there is them once the curb and gutter's done. Curb and gutter construction usually occurs first, and then they go through and start pouring all the sidewalks. So next page, some more roadway improvement photos. On the left, there's a stormwater catch basin install. We had to do, like I said, some spot repairs for some drainage. Israel Road is a extremely flat road, so trying to get and mitigate stormwater and get to flow where it needs to is challenging in and of itself. So we were able to identify all those needs before construction and had those items addressed where we've seen ponding previously prior to paving. And then the right picture there is a picture of the night paving operation. We did get council approval on this one for night paving and detours on this. We know it's a residential street, and we do have that liberty for construction projects to do that. And there was a heavy-handed effort again with public outreach on this one, letting people know in advance of the night work of when it would be occurring. Ultimately, I think it was 7 total nights of night work. Loudest operation being the grinding operation. So we went through, ground everything out, and then we went through and paved it. So I guess getting to the construction summary, project timeline. So this one started on August 12th, 2024. We finally achieved substantial completion June 27th of 2025. That was due to the long lead procurement of the RRFB, the pedestrian signal. Electrical materials are notoriously long lead items, like 6 to 9 months for procuring some of those things, just due to limited amount of fabricators around the US. So, and then we achieved physical completion on October 1st. That included the plan establishment period, so we couldn't issue physical completion until those periods are observed. As I kind of mentioned previously, we did have federal funding participation on this. There was 903,000 that was offered, and then we did some local funding matches from the transportation CFP and the TBD. I didn't get those values on here exactly, but engineering cost estimate, this one originally was 1,832,000. The lowest bid was a little bit higher than we anticipated due to bid prices of HMA. I think where the leading cause of that is hot mix asphalt is a pretty volatile cost with fuel prices and stuff. So when we bid this, we saw those come in. But yeah, Miles Resources awarded the contract at 1,963,000, and then our final contract total was just slightly above budget at 2,400,000 or 4,000. The reasoning primarily for that was just the repaving aspect. So we knew the condition. You can kind of see the photos on the right there, the before and after. The conditions of Israel Road were pretty substantial, and we weren't sure what that was going to look like after we ground out the roadway surface, because that's typically when we do our spot repairs for asphalt to address, notoriously or address issues under the pavement. We can kind of try and estimate that, but until we uncover it, it's kind of where, it's where we make those decisions the night of to kind of, hey, add this work here for spot repairs and stuff. So slightly above budget, but still within our director's approval authority. It's only 2% above budget. So yeah, overall, again, this project was a huge success as well. This one had a lot of coordination aspects. We were coordinating with police, we were coordinating with fire, we were coordinating detours. So with the construction of this for the paving and planing operations, we actually did a detour where it was just westbound traffic only, and kind of doing a detour around Dennis Court or Dennis Street to kind of do a loop, if you will. And yeah, like I said, coordinating with police and fire, making sure they're informed, and then obviously all the public outreach effort we did with this one as well. Communications office, I'm working in tandem with them regularly, and want to give a shout out to them for helping us support our construction projects as well, because they've been an integral part in that process. So yeah, everybody was pretty privy, and the school district as well was another thing. So that was the primary reasoning we did do the night paving on this project. It's kind of a little it could have been done during the day, but it would have been a huge coordination issue with all the parent pickup and stuff during the day. We did have those challenges just doing the sidewalk work in and of itself anyways. So knowing that we started this project in August, we had our contractor focus all their efforts to the sidewalk on the north side of Israel Road, knowing the end users being the school students and stuff after it started in September. So they were actually able to accommodate that, get everything done on the north side. So that was a huge success for Miles as well, being able to prioritize that and restructure their schedule. And yeah, like I said, overall, it was a huge success, just slightly over budget, but given the circumstances, I'm really happy to see it was within that budget. We were a little nervous it was going to open a huge can of worms once we started grinding and be significantly more than what we ended up at. So
Great work, Colby. Thank
yeah.
you. Any other questions? Sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, Colby. Go ahead.
No, you're okay. I was just going to read the recommended action and then showcase this photo here as well. This is of that new pedestrian crossing we put here at New Market Street, right across from the library. So, but yeah, recommended action for this is place the final acceptance of work with Miles Resources for the Israel Pedestrian and Bike Project on the March 3rd, 2026 city consent calendar, with the recommendation for the mayor to accept the project as complete and authorize the release of the performance bond as soon as the laws of the state of Washington allow. So I guess with that, yeah, open it up to any questions.
No questions for me.
No questions. Great job.
Thank you.
My only question is, like, I've already said something to city administrators, if we could have flashing lights on our 25 miles per hour to say, yes, it's 25. And then the next sign, because I don't know how many we have along there, that yes, it's still 25, because nobody does 25 on that road. So that's my pet peeve along. And then I was counting them on Trosper as well the other day as I was leaving the grocery store, that we have at least 4 when you leave. But by the time I turned on Rural Road, there's at least 4 25-mile-an-hour signs there. That anyway, so that's just my pet peeve. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and I guess as I kind of alluded to, so the reduction down to 10 feet lanes kind of presents a traffic calming measure, just restricts it. So Sure, there's the occasional speeder though, absolutely. So,
Oh,
yeah,
occasional. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, Colby, you're giving some grace there. Just occasional. Yeah.
yep.
Okay. Sorry.
I,
No worries.
I just want to pipe in real quick. First of all, I want to say that we're aware of the folks who drive pretty fast on Israel Road every now and then, and so it's something that our traffic
Oh,
team is.
Brandon, thank you.
The
As
other thing
long
I
as
was gonna
nobody
say,
dies, right? We're good. Okay, thank you.
yeah, we're not that state, but it is a straight stretch, and it comes from 35
Yes.
to the west and goes down. Colby touched on this with the support that we get from communications on these projects. It's a change we made a couple years ago, and I want to say it has been a huge success. So thank you, Marnie, for all the work that you do. And another thing I'll say is, you see a lot of our design folks come in for projects, but you only see the construction folks at the very end when we're wrapping up a project or when it's bad news and we need more money because the project isn't going as expected. So huge shout out. This was a difficult project with all the coordination. And our construction team, which is Colby, Dina Hackney, uh, we got David Mills and Matthew Joseph. Huge success. I was the construction manager at Thurston County. We didn't have a construction team here, and we had a vision of kind of creating one, and they are making our projects go so much more successful. And they only get to talk about it once at the end of the project. So big shout out to our construction team on this one. It was a good project.
Excellent teamwork all around. Collaboration, just impressive. It was painful when I was driving down there, but I was just like, it was well worth it. So thank you.
I feel the
It's
same
beautiful
pain.
too.
I feel the same
It's
pain when I'm
beautiful.
driving through, but I'm used to it just because of my career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. With that said, we have a motion to place the final acceptance of work with Miles Resources for the Israel Road Pedestrian and Bike Project on the March 3rd, 2026 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation for the mayor to accept the project as complete and authorize the release of the performance bond as soon as the laws of the state of Washington allow.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. Okay, next
Thank you,
on our
guys.
agenda is the fiber optic cabling agreement with Washington State Department of Transportation, Amendment number 17.
Yeah, I was gonna just recommend that Colby just do this one as well. He's doing such a good job. Let me make sure I can get this thing. Sorry, I'm getting used to Zoom here. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Mine is not nearly as dramatic or impactful, but it is important sort of thing. So this is about interlocal agreement we have with WSDOT, and we have had it. It began back in 2005. And in case I misspeak on anything, Lance is going to be here to correct me. But in 2005, city signed an interlocal agreement with WSDOT to share responsibility for a fiber optic network as far as city operations, EMS, fire, IT throughout, goes to the golf course. It's throughout the city network. There have been 16 amendments to this agreement in the last 20 years that extend the network and pay for repairing damages or relocating facilities and that sort of thing. So this has been a long-standing partnership and it's been a productive one with WSDOT. It's a good balance of sharing resources with another agency. This amendment simply extends the end date. It's set to expire, and this extends the end date to the calendar year 2045 to continue to do business the way we have for the last 20 years in partnership with WSDOT, and all the conditions of the original agreement and previous amendments still apply. So I could try and do a puppet show or something, but I think it's a pretty straightforward administrative sort of change. Lance, unless you wanted to add anything else to that. I don't want to put you on the spot. But hearing nothing, or if there's any questions before I just get to the request. So the request is to place the fiber optic cabling agreement with WSDOT on the March 3rd consent calendar with a recommendation for the mayor to authorize and sign. And again, this is basically just extends the end date to an agreement we've had in place for the last 20 years.
Any questions for Mr. Jeff Cook? No. No questions for you, Mr. Cook. You did a wonderful job. With that, we have a motion. With that, we have a motion to place the fiber optic cabling agreement with the Washington State Department of Transportation on the March 3rd, 2026 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved.
So moved.
First, second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. Are there any additional and future agenda items? Hearing none, I am adjourning the meeting at this time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.